Okay, thanks for joining everybody. This is the Accelatis Essential Series. Today's class is going to be Accelatis Security. It's a quick start session. There's not too much out there on security, so we're going to take the 15 minutes today and go over security and how you can set it up and what all that stuff means. Just to remind you, it's a 15-minute long session. We're going to focus on a specific subject. There will be no Q&A afterwards, but if you have any questions, you can always email us, write them down and email them to us, and we'll be happy to get them answered. So the Accelatis security module, the way that you get to it is on any server that's running the Accelatis host, and this is on a Windows server. You would do one of two things, either launch securitymanager.bat off of the Accelatis runtime directory, or in the server directory is the actual executable, which is ACC account manager ex.exe, and it opens up to a screen just like you see here. You have to have special rights in order to do this. So the admin account by default has that right. So if it's the first time in, log in with the admin account, and it'll open up to this screen where you see security classes, automation access, and database connections. And if you split these into little sections in your mind, and we're actually just going to not pay attention to the database connections. That is something that we did cover in health checks, setting up database connections for health checks. But today we're going to focus on just the security module part. So you have security classes and some automation access in there. If you click on the next tab over, which is provisioning, it will open up this screen, which you see all of your users over on the left-hand side. And there's two tabs on the right-hand side. The first tab will list out all of the roles that you can assign to a user or a template. And then if you click on security classes, you see all of the security class access that has been assigned to that user or that template. And on that main screen, at the top is where we have all the icons to control things. You have an add, remove, one to view the properties, one to change a user's password. You can copy an account, which will preserve all of the security class access and roles and just copy it to a new account, or save changes that you just made, or you could run a user security report, which is that little colorful icon all the way to the right. On the main screen at the top, there's a couple of report options as well. You can click on them and see that they're just reports based on security access and provisioning. So at any point, if you wanted to get something that has everything in it, you can run those reports to see who's in your organization is in the Accelatis security and what rights and roles they have. So when you click on the add, you get this pop-up, which is a new user account. It gives you the ability to create a custom user, which is just a new user that you would ad hoc pick roles in security class access. You can create a template, okay, and a template is going to be something that is saved for later use, a reusable list of roles, you could think of it. And then there's a couple of different options that go along with the template that might already be there. Create an account that inherits rights from the template, which means it's going to pull down all of the security class access and provisioning from that template, but it leaves it in a state where you can add or remove whatever you want from that account. Or the last one, tie to template. And that one means that that user account is not going to be editable. It is only ever going to have the roles and security class access that the template has. So those are the four options you have. And then you can give it a username, of course, a password, and then you can add an email address, which actually makes some of the things easier. As you get into the UI, you could see that users, you can pull down drop-down lists and it'll know their email address for, a little bit of easier configuration for some of the things. Template use, I just wanted to go over that again. Think of it as a baseline set of roles, which most Accelatis users will get. In that case, you want to do an inherit from template, and that's actually going to be what we're doing today, is we're going to pull down the roles, inherit from the template, so it leaves the user in a editable state. Or if you have multiple accounts that always have the same exact provisioning needs, that's tied to template. And the important thing here, a user can only be tied to one template at a time. So keep that in mind. You can't have a user tied to multiple templates. In the roles, in the center column, it has all of the available roles. And the way that we list them out is alphabetically, which is okay to find certain things. But I have broken it apart here, I think in a more digestible view, where you have some administrator roles, which those roles need to be one at a time given, system or environment administrator roles, portal administrator, HFM administrators, or managed security. These are all considered administrator roles, so you can only do those one at a time. Everything else, you can click on everything under the sun and move them over at the same time. So what I did was I broke it down by the module items. If you follow the UI all the way down the left side, these are the roles that pertain to those items, that you can either see them and have access to them, or that you can't, right? So we have stakeholder, manage reports, manage dashboards, manage alerts, all of those things. The portal access is specific to the Accelatis portal. So you can be a portal admin or a portal user. There's nothing more to do there. The menu items in the center column are going across the top of the client UI, and these are the things that stay there, where again you can give somebody access to those things, change password, manage the Accelatis jobs, which would be to view the jobs, execute commands, manage repository system properties. These are all things, and I'll show them to you in a second, that you can do from the menu at the top. And then we have the top section of the UI, which is the product quick links. And again, in order, these are all of the roles that pertain to those things. So the analysis module would be manage log records. Right? The next module over is environment manager. And under environment manager, there's a bunch of roles that you can do under there. You can give somebody these roles, or have them not be able to see it at all, right? Manage properties, manage server services, all of those types of things. And over down the line for the manage automation, manage change audit, so on and so forth. And again, these are just the roles that you would give somebody that needs access to those things. And the last thing would be manage activity tracking, which actually has to do with the configuration, not so much to do with an end user, but again, it exists there in the list of roles. So when you have that screen open like this, and you are assigning a role, you can see that I've expanded in the center the role that I'm interested in, and we'll take manage change audit there, for example. When I expand it, I get two options. I get either all, or I get my environment name. My environment name is ACC 4014. Uh, I don't think I've ever seen anybody with multiple environments in the same database. So that being said, what you can do here is you could just use that all at the top, and just know that they'll, your users will have access to everything under there. It's easy to do. Or if you want to get really granular, some of these things have the ability to break down security roles even further. In this case, manage change audit has a whole subtree of things like, SBase or HSS. And you can get very specific with what your users can get access to. And again, you put a check mark next to the ones that you want them to have access to. And right in the middle, there's an arrow button. You click on this arrow button, and then it's going to ask you what type of access do you want. So we have 4 different types of access: read, execute, write, and all. My suggestion would be at first to keep these very simple. Read access will just let you look at things, won't let you do too much. And then if you need more than read, I would just say give them all. And you could play with the in-betweens to find out what that really means for certain scenarios, execute or write. But again, you would give them the role access, and then it moves it over to the extreme right-hand side. And once you have all of your roles there, you can hit save, and that user now has all those access. Security classes can be assigned to objects such as dashboards, automations, and log alerts to give another layer of security to the system, right? So on top of giving the user either read access or execute access for, say, an automation, you can have that automation not even appear to that user by assigning it a security class, okay? So if you remember in that first screen, when you open up the Security Manager UI, you get a list of security classes. And if you were to click on the provisioning tab and you highlight a user and you go to security classes, you see that user's access to the security classes. What I wanted to show you here was that the default access all the way to the left, is none, right? So you can see default is none. But in this case, I have given this user all access to the default. And what happens is it gives it a little bit of a gray tint to that line. And I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not, but it's a quick way to see if a user has other than the default access. And we'll show you that as well. So quick start demo, I'm going to make a new template, which is going to give users read access to everything. Okay, so I'm going to do all non-admin roles, and I'm going to give all of those roles read access. Again, no administrator roles are going to be given here. And I'm going to ensure that the access to the default security class is set to all. And the reason is because on a new system, everything is default. So if you were to create a user that has no access to the default security class, there's a bunch of things that they're never going to be able to see. So just set that to all. And again, if the roles need to change, you know, later, then you would do inherit from template as opposed to the other choice, which is tie to template. So I'm going to pull up the UI here. I'm going to open up the security manager by double clicking on that batch file. Okay, and I log in with my admin account. As long as I spell it right, it'll work perfectly. Okay, and when this opens up, again, these are the same screens that I showed you. I haven't put any new security classes in here. This is all default. This is all default. I'm going to come over to my provisioning window. Now, just to save time, I did already create a base user role template, but I'm going to show you how I did that. Hit the plus sign. I'm going to create a new template. Okay, I'm going to call it read access. Okay, I click OK. And now when I highlight read access, you can see I have nothing assigned to it in roles. Security class access is still default. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, and I'm going to say that I want the read access group to have access to all of the default things. And again, this is out of the box, looks just like that. And then when I go to assign the roles, it does take some time, right? Because you need to go through and expand each one, and we're going to pick all. Okay. So again, I understand that this does take some time, which is why I went ahead and I did this already. So base user roles, you can see it's the same thing. Default access is all. All of my roles are read only, okay? So now that I have that template, now I can create a user and I could do my one of two things. I can either inherit the rights from the template, which means it's a new user and it's going to get all these by default, and I can edit the user afterwards, or I could tie it to the template, which means new user gets all of these roles, but now I can't edit the user. It's going to be tied to that. So let's just do a quick test here, and I'm not going to add anything because I want it to be super quick for you guys. So there's one called inherit, and then I'm going to create another one called tie, right? I get a drop down list of anything that I've created. So we're going to call this one tie. Okay, again, super easy. Save my changes. And I just want you to see the difference where if a user inherited the roles, when I highlight this user, you could see that these roles are here, and I could add more if I want. I could take stuff away. I can add more security classes. I can do whatever I want there. The one that is tied to the template, I can't make any changes for, okay? If I wanted to add something to this user, I have to make a change to my template, okay? So whatever the template is, that's what this user is. Now this one that inherited the roles, those won't change. You know, I can make any change to this template now, and this user has nothing to do with it. The only thing that I did was I pulled in all of the things when I first created the account. But other than that, this user now is in no way associated with that template. Okay, so I'll show you that if I launch my UI. Oh, actually, I've got to launch the console, and I should have done that earlier because that may take a second. But the point is, when I log in with my user that has read-only access and all access to the default security class, on the surface, it's going to look very similar, but what you'll notice is that certain functions and functionality is not available to me, such as running a health check or launching an automation. Again, I have read access across the board for all of my roles, so those types of things will not be available to me. And I am trying hard to fill up some time here so I can get this initialized. Once again, this is my good old sandbox environment that just struggles to even stay afloat while I'm doing these calls. I'm going to launch the UI and I'm going to get it ready. And once it comes up, I apologize for this, folks. A couple more minutes that we did not need to spend. It's just waiting for Essbase to come up. And then again, I just want to show you what that looks like. And I'll talk to, once you have this read-only user template created and you create your users there, you can definitely add stuff to it. Again, if I wanted to, say this one user has all the read access, but I said, you know what, this user is going to be doing a ton of stuff with automation, so I want them to be able to do much more with automations. I could just add the automation and say, you know what, I'm going to give him all access, right? And maybe the automation variables, I'm also going to give this user all access to that, right? So once I save that, you'll notice that here it's now changed those things to all access, right? So the inherit user now has a little more access to things than the other one does. Okay, so Ty was my user, and let me go ahead and log in with that account. And again, what you're going to see is something similar uh, to the others, but you're going to see some things grayed out, some things that I don't have access to, right? If I were to go into Environment Manager as this user, notice that I've got nothing here, no ability to change the environment. I don't see services or anything, right? So it's a much different user than what the admin account is. And I would just warn again, when you create your users, make sure that this default is all, so that way you can go back and you can have access to everything and tie it down later. It's probably the best policy. And that's it for the quick start on security. The next session we're going to do is custom failure criteria for health checks. We're going to get into a little more functionality on what you can do with the health checks. Thanks for attending. Any questions and feedback, please let us know what you want to see or what you think of the series. My email address is up on the screen, or you can email the support mailbox. Again, thanks for joining everybody, and have a great week.